Scarlet and Violet came out very recently. I am a die-hard fan of Pokemon, but I didn't get the new games. Here's why. Game Freak are the main creators of the Pokemon franchise. Ever since the Red and Blue games in the late 90s, they've attained millions of loyal fans of the series. But recently, the games have been very hit or miss. When Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out, that was the first Pokemon game to come out on the Switch. It was a very well-received game, but then Sword and Shield came out. Sword and Shield are some of the most controversial Pokemon games to date, dividing their fan base. Some love the game and think it's perfect. Others are angry at trees. Pokemon Sword and Shield were a risk. And even though I think they aren't the best games, they really didn't add very many cool Pokemon, notable characters, or story. This shook a lot of Poke fans and weakened some of their faith. Then the DLCs came out. The DLCs of Sword and Shield are some of the lamest excuses for Pokemon content ever. They came out around the start of the pandemic, and they were bad. Terrible story, terrible rivals. And not because they were mean, but just because they were idiots. Wasn't very well received, and wasn't all that great. But then, in fall of 2021, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out. These games were faithful remakes of the original games. And when I say faithful, I mean faithful. These games were almost one-to-one copies of the original games. But they did change one major thing: the Elite Four. This Elite Four and Champion had perfect competitive teams, and it was terrifying. For a children's game, the Elite Four was one of the hardest ever, even for skilled players of the franchise. This also shook the child and casual fan base of the game. Then, in January of 2022, Legends Arceus came out. This game was fine. Unoriginal characters, ugly regional variants. Yes, it was fun the first time. The replayability isn't really that high. They were fun games, but this rocked some faith in the community. Then, Scarlet and Violet. One of the mistakes of the company made is that they showed off too much in the game trailer. They showed off so many Pokemon in new forms. It was kind of ruining the surprise of what the Pokedex would be like. Then the game's released, and it was buggy, messy, laggy, glitchy, random barriers. It was a nightmare. I personally had decided to hold off on buying these games on release to see if they were any good, and I'm glad I didn't buy them. They look like fine games, but I'm not sure if I'm be willing to buy them. Though, in my opinion isn't concrete, and some people have different, better experiences than others. But this is why I didn't buy these games. I hope my input was helpful for your decision whether to buy them or not, or if you were just curious about the history. Thank you for watching, gamers and gamettes. I will see you later.